So I like to think that I know what you guys tend to like now, after about 4 years of the show. And if you haven't been living under a rock for the past, say, couple of women-led game showcases and events on Steam, you should know Piece Together, a beautiful puzzle game where, to do the game a big disservice, you sort out memories on a scrapbook. The game is developed by Glowfrog Games, it's out now, and for this episode 90, I sat with Kate Killick, one of the original founders of the studio, to talk about the game. Please give her a warm welcome, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast. This is episode number 90. We're getting very close to the 100th Indie Diary, and with me today is a very special guest from Glowfrog. That's Kate. Now I'll hand it over to you, Kate. Just say a few things about yourself, but I think the most important thing that my listeners will want to know is that you are the developers behind Piece Together. But now over to you for more details.
Yes, hi, thanks for having me. I'm Kate. I am the lead designer / company founder at Glowfrog Games, as you mentioned. I've been working in games for 15 or 16 years now in a whole bunch of different things, doing mobile games and indie games and startups. But I started Glowfrog Games about 3 years ago. We've been working on our cozy narrative scrapbooking game Piece Together. We just launched last Friday, so I'm still somewhat recovering from how intense that was. And I don't know yet what's next for us.
Yeah, beautiful. And for context, listeners, last Friday for you listening now is the 6th of March, because we're recording on the 13th. But yeah, Piece Together, I've actually kept an eye on the game for the longest time, because it's kind of like, it's the kind of stuff that I like. It seems like super relaxing. But yeah, so before we get into the actual episode, we have a little prologue segment, as you might remember from my emails. So I'm going to try and ask you as many questions as possible within 60 seconds. There will be some background music like a quiz show, but the only way to get through this list is basically shoot the first thing that comes to your mind, and then maybe we expand later. So are you ready for this little segment?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start by asking you, what is the first game that you ever fell in love with?
Ocarina of Time. Zelda.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, they're very snappy. Love it. If you could play only one game for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Ooh, Stardew Valley.
Beautiful. Okay. If you could be a game character for a day, who would you be?
Pikachu.
Pikachu. Tell me an underrated game in your opinion. It's a bit more tricky this one.
Paradise Marsh. That's one of my favorite recent games.
Okay. Pitch your game in one sentence. Piece Together.
Cozy narrative scrapbooking with a very realistic and relatable storyline. That's what I'm looking for.
Perfect. What's your guilty pleasure game? Something you love but know isn't perfect.
I don't know. I don't have a good one.
Okay, it's fine. And pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Damn it. Okay.
I'm vegan. I have limited options.
yeah. That's fine. It's okay. That's we're at time, and we actually went through the entire list. That is the first time in a while that happens. That was really good. But yeah, I mean, I'm an Italian, so I have to side against you with pineapple and pizza. But actually, at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know what? Everybody eats whatever the hell they want. If you find it nice and tasty, then it's still pizza, isn't it? Well, some people would argue that it isn't, but yeah. But now we can relax. I loved some of the answers that you said, like Ocarina of Time and Pikachu as a game character for a day. I think it's a first. Do you want to elaborate on that one? What is it about Pikachu?
I don't know. I just feel like it would be fun. Like, it's very cute, and you could run around like zap it. Well, it's like you get a superpower, don't you? So I thought that would be fun. Electricity
as well, which is very, very much needed in today's world, especially. So yeah. But yeah, so well, as I mentioned, now we can relax and we can slow down. This
I
was
was
a little
getting
bit
more
of a
nervous as it went on.
yeah, I know, no. That's intended, but fortunately, only lasts for 1 minute. So now we can just dive into the actual episode, which is more about your personal story, but also your studio story. I know it's a two-person studio with Ellie. We'll get to that, but I want to start from the very beginning because these are indie diaries. We talk about your story from the origins to now. So, what would you say is your very first memory that has to do with video games? The first thing that you can remember.
Probably playing games with my dad when I was
Hmm.
very young. We used to play DOS games on
Hmm.
his computer. I would like sit on his lap. I think we were playing Galaxian and like some other more obscure DOS games.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the earliest I can remember gaming.
Hmm. It's very. Mine is very similar. I remember. Well, I don't remember my very first memory with video games. I don't know if I can place it, but like, I remember playing games with my dad, especially Spyro on the first
Mm.
PS1. On the first PS1 on PS1, first PlayStation. I remember playing Spyro, and he played Spyro, but then that was his one and only venture into games because after playing Spyro for a good chunk of the day, then he dreamt that night that he was flying that he was riding Spyro, one of those flying levels that you get in the first Spyro especially. So well, then he was like, nope, not gonna touch a game ever again. All right, well, you do you. I mean, I thought it was a pretty cool dream, but anyway. um and then obviously that's the playing part of your story, but at some point the developers like you and a little bit me as well, we always realize that there's a moment when we want to actually make the games
Mhm.
that we've been playing, or even just completely different games. So when was that moment for you? When did you realize that you wanted to actually make one?
So I think the whole time that I was a teenager, I grew up quite rurally in the UK in a place there wasn't really anything to do, any public transport. So once I got access to a computer when I was 11 or 12, maybe, I started spending a lot of time not necessarily making games, but doing all sorts of different things. Like I love doing digital art. I started making websites, and I made a Pokemon fan site actually,
Ah, okay,
or
okay.
two.
I started to see
Um,
some patterns there.
yeah, that was the first ever website I made was a Pokemon fan site. So I got into kind of coding all sorts of different things, and then when a bit later I got into making Flash games, and that was like the perfect time for that era of Flash games like Newgrounds and all those websites. But at that point, I definitely didn't know that it was something you could go on and do
Mm,
as a career. So I thought that the best match for my interests career-wise and for university was going to be animation because it kind of combined that digital technical side of things and then the creative side. But while I was on a one-year art foundation course after school, I had a lecturer from the games course come around and tell us about games as a degree, and I was like, what? Obviously, this is what I should be doing. This is the perfect match because I did always enjoy programming as well. So
mm.
yeah, it made so much sense in that moment. And I was like, obviously, I'm going to go and study game design, and then that's what I'm going to do the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a story that I've heard many times. Like, there's a lot of people that come onto the show and they say, "I actually didn't know that game
Yeah.
development was a career. I just saw some credits one day and realized, oh, there's actually people that make these. Maybe I can do it too." So yeah, that everybody's path into game dev is quite different, but yeah, I mean, you kind of realize at some point that there's people making these things.
Yeah.
I remember that moment for me was when I played To the Moon. That was over 10 years ago. I
Mm.
think it was 11 years ago. I don't remember when To the Moon was released. But I played it around launch when it was getting viral on YouTube and such. And when I finished it, I was obviously broken because that game is beautiful. But I also thought someone sat down and wrote this beautiful story and then they turned it into a game. This is something that I would love to do one day. And then I entered the corporate world as an agency man, but that's another story. But it's a story for another day, maybe. But yeah, so I read on the Glowfrog website that you and I think Ellie as well left the world of free to play to make more meaningful games together. So how did you get into free to play? How was the experience for you? Like within the limits of what you can discuss,
Mhm.
of course.
Yeah, well, I kind of ended up there, I guess, a little bit by accident. Like when I was at university, I made my first commercial game. We like won a student competition. We ended up getting into a publishing deal with Microsoft, and the game we'd made was a
Nice.
Windows Phone game. If anybody remembers Windows
I
Phone,
had a
it does.
Windows Phone.
Well, I made a game. It was actually, I think, like top 5 on the Windows Phone store for a while. Was
Okay.
not many different games on that store.
That is
But
fair enough.
yeah, so I'd kind of gone into mobile really early on because it did seem like a really interesting design space. You know, it's kind of like new and exciting, and like had these new constraints that were really interesting to work with versus trying to go off and do like console games.
Hmm.
So I'd had that experience, and then I was trying to find my first job after uni, and it was quite difficult. I think it's still really difficult, if not more
Still is, yeah.
difficult. And I ended up getting a UX design job at like a appointment booking software. I went to a jobs fair, basically, talked to someone, didn't know what UX design was, but I was like, I think I could do that. It kind of crosses over with the stuff that I know. So yeah, I kind of ended up going into apps for a few years, and then I like laddered my way back into games. So I worked on an
Hmm.
educational app which had games in it for kids after that job, and then finally I got into a mobile games company, which was my last full-time role. And that was making games for new platforms like Snapchat and Facebook Messenger, and then Discord and all these different platforms that were coming up making social games. So yeah, that's how I ended up there. I wouldn't say I aimed to get into free to play, but it kind of
Hmm.
crossed over with my, I guess that some of the types of games I was interested in early on.
Yeah, it kind of happened in a way, yeah,
Mm.
and well, at least it was a way into the industry as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
so from app design to I'm already getting some questions that I can ask later, but one at a time, one at a time. So well, in all this time, obviously, like you've been working in games for a while, and also you've even been doing games since you were at uni. So uh, clearly a long time. What would you say is the biggest development challenge that you overcome? Like it could be a technical challenge, could be like a challenge of approach, mindset, something like that. So entirely up to you. Something that left a mark
Yeah,
on you.
I mean, some of the things I find difficult. So I'm always a bit divided because a lot of the time I say I'm not a programmer. I've never worked professionally as a programmer. I've worked as a game designer. On the other hand, I'm saying, yeah, I was like programming games, you know, in Flash 20 years ago. But I do still consider myself more of a designer. And there's things that I struggle with when it comes to programming. I enjoy prototyping, but I really am not great when it comes to like architecting and planning, kind of more
Ah, okay.
robust code bases. So because of that, I've always felt like, and other reasons, that I like to work with other people. I like to collaborate so I can, um, I can build things that are maybe more ambitious than I can do on my own. And I also just really like the creative collaboration of working with other people. But it is hard to find the right people to work with. That's probably been my
Okay.
biggest challenge of the last 5 years. Like I went through a whole journey looking for a collaborator for Glowfrog Games. We actually still don't have a um, like permanent programmer on the team, so we've been
Hmm.
working with freelancers through this project. So that's presented a lot of different challenges.
Of course. Hmm. Well, and that actually leads very well into the next question. How did you and Ellie meet? Like, what's the story behind Glowfrog, essentially?
So we did both meet at our last job at the company making the social games.
Hmm.
I was there from quite early on as a designer, and then I kind of worked up to being a project lead. And yeah, Ellie joined as a game artist. I think we worked together for 3 years, maybe. I ended up leaving that job during the pandemic because like the pandemic was not good for my mental health. I did not enjoy working from home on my own.
Okay.
So I ended up going away and just freelancing for a year or so. I ended up getting different grants to work on my own projects as well, which is really cool. And then eventually Ellie also went freelance, and it kind of aligned at the right time. We both ended up
Oh.
moving to Norfolk at the same time as well, which was
Oh,
quite
Norfolk. Okay.
coincidental. So
Uh-huh.
we're both living quite close to each other again. And yeah, I'd started this piece together project. I tried to pitch it to her when we went on a trip to Reboot Develop in Croatia, and we were like sat by the pool. And I was trying to explain this game idea, but it was a much worse game idea back then. It was all about memory loss and like
Hmm.
having to choose who you're going to remember or forget by who you put in the scrapbook.
Okay.
And I was trying to explain this to her, and I could just see she was like, I don't know what this idea is.
Uh,
But over time, the idea evolved, and we talked about it more. And yeah, we really aligned when once we got into the theme of the game being more about personal stories and cozy vibes. Like we're so we're a bit mind melded on on
Hmm.
those things, so it was really easy to collaborate in the end.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, that's a lovely story. I mean, and you both ended up moving to Norfolk, which is actually a place that I was looking at myself because
Right.
honestly, London is so expensive.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, right now I'm based here. But yeah, no, that's very interesting, and I think that gives me a lot of like questions, or makes me think of a lot of questions around, especially development on a game like Piece Together. No, first of all, like you mentioned that you've been working with some freelancers, so I assume you're both game designer plus artist, like you
Mm.
and Ellie.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my main focus is design, her main focus is art, but we also kind of cross over a bit into each other's
Mhm.
areas.
Okay, yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And you both have a background in free to play games, and then you moved into Piece Together.
Mm.
I'm interested in the overlaps. Well, if there's any overlaps, like how did having a background in free to play influence the kind of things that you're doing on Piece Together now?
I think the reason why I always felt a bit at home in mobile, even though I don't love free to play, I don't love doing some of those areas of design that come with it. But what I do appreciate is that, and maybe this is more so earlier on in mobile games, but it's aiming at an audience that is not otherwise the typical gaming audience traditionally, right? Like I was one of
Yeah.
3, 4 women, on my games course. I always felt a bit out of place. I wasn't into hardcore games, like I've never been into shooters. Or, it's easy to feel like you're not part of the main demographic, either
Hmm.
as a gamer or in the industry. And I think mobile to me felt like, oh, it's opening up this huge new audience of people with this understanding of like gaming can be for everybody. Everybody likes to play different things. And I think that's what drew me to that and why I enjoyed doing that type of thing. And that is kind of what we're doing with Piece Together as well, right? We're just making things for anybody that enjoys them, about universal experiences. We don't have to fit into like a particular type of box of what gaming should be. So I think, yeah, that kind of set the stage for that. And also I think you can see clearly when you play the game that I'm from a mobile background because it's a lot
Okay.
about tactile
Uh-huh.
interaction. And that was 100% when we made that first Windows Phone game. It was all about, oh my God, we've got a touch screen and an accelerometer. Like, how can we do
Hmm.
cool stuff with that? And then I just find myself now by default kind of thinking towards those kind of mechanics and that
Right.
quite
Okay.
accessible like types of interaction and relaxing gameplay as well. So yeah, I think there are kind of threads that have gone through
Hmm.
it all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And well, are there plans to maybe make Piece Together, like make it land on mobile? Because I believe it's just on Steam right now, unless I
Yeah,
remember wrong. Okay.
no, it is just on Steam. I mean, so it started off as a mobile game because I was applying
Oh,
to an accelerator that was for mobile games. So that was where it started, and then just because of the way the business ended up going, we sort of moved to focusing on Steam mainly because there's a lot more funding opportunities and
right. Hmm.
um, it's like a hard sell for premium indie games on mobile.
Yeah, no, of
So
course.
I have made mobile builds recently. It does run. It would need some editing, but I think it would just come down to, do we see a path where it makes sense, like
Yeah,
financially, to put that
financially, of
time
course.
in? Maybe if a publisher was interested or something, definitely open to it. Maybe I'll do it just as a side project at some
Yeah,
point.
no,
But
no. Could do it too. Could work on that too. Yeah. Um, Well, and with that said, I mean, obviously, creating a cozy game like Piece Together compared to like maybe a mobile free to play game where there might be or there might not be, because I'm not sure what games developed in the past, but there might be some monetization, aggressive
mm,
monetization as well to try and keep players engaged in any case, or even just ads and such. So, what is something no one tells you? What is something no one tells you about developing a cozy game like Piece Together? Could be challenges, could be
yeah,
surprising things. I don't know.
I think no, I can't say nobody told us because we did sort of know, I guess, but it's so handcrafted. When you're looking at free to play, it's all about that long retention and
Hmm.
replayability and progression systems that are going to keep people coming back for like 2 years. We went to the other end of
Hmm.
the scale and made a game that's 90 minutes long, probably on average. And we knew that would be a challenge, but I think the extent to which crafting every single moment of gameplay, hand drawing everything, it's not the best business strategy, I'll say, for how long we spent working on it versus how much gameplay you got out of it. So yeah, I think, that's not necessarily applicable to all cozy games, but definitely the narrative heavy stuff. I think trying to make sure that, yeah, people get enough out of that was quite hard.
But I think it's commendable that you still push through with it and decided to do something handcrafted. It might not make a lot of sense business-wise, but we're not in the game-making business just for business for the most part. At least, I mean, I know that a lot of devs aren't. So it's about the passion that you put into it. It's about the creating something that you'll be proud of. That kind of stuff that I'm sure you will resonate with. And then obviously there's the business case for it, and obviously you have to look after that one too. But in the end, I mean, if you're proud of the end result of what pieced together, then great, and the next game will be even better, and you'll have learned a lot, I'm pretty sure. And speaking of pieced together, Connie and Beth, are they inspired by potentially real life figures?
Not specifically. It's funny because it's such a narrative driven game, but we didn't know for the longest time what the story was actually going to be. We didn't
Okay.
start off with a story. We started off, it was me, and so I originally had another founder at Glowfrog, by the way, who was the programmer, and we ended up going our different ways for
Okay.
just for life reasons. So when we started prototyping, it was really just about sorting things into a scrapbook. And then when we started to get more bits of funding and grant, and I was working more with Ellie, we didn't really feel like we knew we've never made a narrative game, either of us. I don't know how to make a story, so we kept we worked with some narrative freelancers. We kept trying to find some sort of direction, and to be honest, in those days I felt a bit like, not that I don't care what the story is, but I don't need to own this story. Someone else can come and take it.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, I think we did start to see, I don't quite know how, but it like just evolved. And the more we put into it, I suppose Ellie and I would talk a lot about our experiences of friendship, different friends, how we are as different personalities. And then it just kind of got infused into the characters and the storyline. And now looking back, I'm like, this is so personal. It feels like it really did come from us. And, you can see definite elements of the characters, either between me and Ellie or from people in our lives, that
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to think that it started off with us being like, oh yeah, I don't know, just slap a story on it.
Yeah.
um,
Well, but it's not uncommon, I would say, because like a lot of in a lot of games, like the story tends to be an afterthought, at
yeah,
least in the solo dev space, because you want to be focused on making mechanics that are fun. And there's this ongoing debate. Obviously, as a writer, I know where I stand, but there's this ongoing debate between, oh, a game should be fun, a game should have a story. I think they should go together.
yeah,
Like, and that's what narrative design is all about, and that's what makes a very fun and interesting and compelling story. But also in the cozy space, I think a nice story that is very human and people focused and whatnot, then that marries up really well with the genre. So it's nice that you now feel it to be personal, because
yeah.
that's it gives the game even more soul, even more
Yeah,
personality in a way.
I think part of what happened was we started showcasing it. So in the beginning, we had this demo that was the first chapter where they meet. There's like the sad birthday party that no one's turning up to, and we made that chapter without any idea of what was going to happen in the rest of the game. It was really just like, can we prove that we can make some emotional moments, that we can do something nice here? And then we kept seeing people, sometimes publishers that, that I was showcasing to at GDC, like getting quite teary about that initial moment. And I think that was,
Oh.
the more we tested and got feedback, the more we realized, oh, this thing where we've just put quite a real life, potentially quite boring story, like it's not a dramatic story. The more people were relating to it, and almost like the playtesting sessions would turn into a bit of therapy. All the time, people would be saying, "Oh, this reminds me so much of this friend or this thing that happened to
Oh.
me," or different specific details as well might stand out to them. So I think after that, we were like, we should really lean into this. Like, we don't
Hmm.
have to worry about making really smart puzzles or
Yeah.
really innovative mechanics. Let's just lean into the things we didn't know we were good at, but we are apparently
Hmm.
good at, which is these emotional moments and, yeah, relatable story and kind of vibes as well. We yeah, I think we consider ourselves to be quite like vibe driven
Yeah, and
designers.
that, and I can see the vibe in Piece Together for sure. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, the game kind of lends itself well to something that's very story driven and that's character driven, especially. So yeah. But that's actually a very nice segue into what I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned like some. Like they would get teary and maybe think about their own personal experience. But what would you say has been one of the most memorable reactions that someone has had to piece together?
Well, it's funny you ask. I was looking at my Steam refund requests today,
Oh
and
no.
there's one in there that says, "This game made me cry so much that I don't want it to be in my library anymore." I was like, okay, the storytelling was too powerful.
Okay, fair enough.
Um,
It's
so
making
that
us
one,
lose
but
money.
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I think the I was joking for a long time of like my goal is to make people cry, because a lot of people had said about the demo, I nearly cried, I teared up a little. I'm like, no, I need
No,
full
no, you
on
have to go
tears.
all the way. Yeah.
So there was like one streamer that I watched when
Uh,
we'd sent the keys out a few weeks before launch, who by the end was like quite teary, and I was like, yes,
oh,
we've done
yes,
it.
it
We've
works.
actually made, and I was also quite worried that the demo would be the peak. So I spent a lot of time being like, we have to make sure that's not the moment in the game that people remember the most, right? Because that's just the start of the story. So yeah, I
Mhm.
was very happy to see that people felt the ending of the game. I think that was,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, there's something powerful in, and this may sound a little bit sadistic, but there's something powerful in making other people cry with your writing, isn't there? Like, but in a way, I mean, when that happens, and it happened to me a lot with like short stories that maybe I sent to friends, it's like you're opening up a human connection between yourself and the
Yeah,
person that's actually experiencing those emotions. You're sending a message. You're communicating something that is very,
yeah.
very, very powerful, and something that I love thinking about here and there. Um, well, and you mentioned puzzles as well, and as someone who is absolutely crap at puzzles, I need to ask this. What would be your tips for someone doing maybe a puzzle game, and how do you do those very clever, brilliant, innovative puzzles that you mentioned? Like, what is the approach that you personally
Oh.
well,
Yeah.
okay, but maybe you will say, "Oh, I don't think Piece Together has many innovative puzzles." Yeah, I could see it in your in your reaction. But in general, like, what approach do you take to puzzle design?
Yeah, it's funny. So my partner also has a game studio. He
Uh-huh.
runs Newfangled Games. They made a game called Paper Trail. Very
Oh, I
puzzle.
know that one.
That right. That's like smart puzzle
Okay.
design. That's very much like about having one mechanic initially and kind of building out all the possibility space around that. I find that really difficult, and I think one of the challenges we had with Piece Together is that the initial mechanic of just sorting things, like it doesn't take you that far, right? It's not very deep, and we felt like people might get a bit bored if it was just that for an hour and a half. So we kind of took this approach of like, we want to give you a little variety of light things to do. So it's more about just giving you some unexpected things to figure out and mixing it up kind of quite frequently. Again, that's not great business. We spent a lot of time debugging all the different things that we'd put in the game that seemed very simple initially. So yeah, I think the hard thing with puzzles for me is that it's so variable how difficult people find them.
Mm,
And we've
true.
had people play Piece Together who were real puzzle fans. They whiz through it. That's all right. Yeah, it's fine. There's zero challenge. And we have had reviews or refunds that are like, it's too easy. And then on the other hand, you might have someone who gets stuck for quite a long time on something that seems quite simple. And I think especially because we have the variety, there's certain puzzle types that some people will find really easy and some others will find really difficult. And we only do it like, we have these sort of deduction puzzles like putting together the schedule or sort of
Hmm.
following a map. That
Okay.
because we haven't really built up those mechanics, when we do throw them at people who are maybe not naturally that good at those types of puzzles, they're a bit like, oh. So it's so hard to know with the difficulty of puzzles. I think that's the hardest thing, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And we've talked about like different features and a little bit of deduction puzzles and whatnot. What would you say has been the hardest feature to put in Piece Together for the team?
Uh, Jigsaws. jigsaw pieces.
Oh god, I imagine how much of a nightmare they are data wise. Yeah.
That and we had all these like the UX of just you just kind of want things to snap together and
Uh-huh.
sticking things to other things, but I am not the type of designer that is good at sitting down and mapping stuff out early
Okay.
on. So there was a lot
Uh-huh.
of things that was, and it was a fast project in the end. Like we had 3 years, right? But most of that was bobbling around trying to get funding, and it was actually less than a year of full production. So it was a lot to do. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of things that came in fairly late or through the process, or things that I thought might be easy and then
And
were
then
not. So
mhm.
yeah, the whole thing where we ended up that you could stick an item on top of another item or snap things together, that
Mhm.
for the number of puzzles that actually, or the amount of time that the players are interacting with that, took a lot of fiddling around with.
Yeah, well, I mean when you're working with data structures, that always happens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this will be easy, but then you find yourself 3 days into the feature and you see no end in sight. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, believe it or not, Kate, we're almost done. I just got a couple more questions for you. But before we do that, I wanna ask you something that it's gonna be a little bit of a playful exercise, might be a little bit of a mental break from these intense
Okay.
mental questions, which is, and this could probably be actually very easy for Piece Together. If you were to recreate your game using physical toys, what would that look like? And you could use like
Mm.
Lego bricks, whatever, physical toys, action figures, anything.
I mean, I just want to make it out of stickers, I guess.
Yeah, well, that
We
could be.
have talked a lot about when we were showcasing at events. If we had the marketing budget, we would love to have had a physical scrapbook. It would have been so
Oh.
cool, right? We could have taken a scrapbook to every event, got a Polaroid camera, and got people who were playing the game to like take their own photos and make
Nice.
pages, and then each page of the book could have been like the journey of piece together. But
Oh,
yeah, we didn't do it. I still talked
oh.
about doing it maybe for a launch party, which we also haven't done yet.
Okay. But it's there.
But
Sooner or later. Yeah.
yeah, that would have been so nice. Or like, imagine if we'd done a Kickstarter and the reward could have been like a
Ah, yeah, the
physical
scrapbook.
version of the scrapbook.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When we're millionaires and we can just do fun marketing activities, yeah.
Yeah, maybe the next game, never say never, never say never. Okay, okay. Well, and with that said, I mean, we are in the core, the heart of the show, I would say. And this is a question that I have very dear that I have very dear to my heart. I think that is the phrase. Anyway, why are you a game developer, Kate? What drives you forward? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
That's a tricky question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think um, I do think. Well, I mean, I could say it's about making the impact and players, but the real answer is that I just enjoy tinkering with stuff. Like I enjoy tinkering with visual things. That's what
Mm-hmm.
started me at 11 at doing websites, Flash games, 3D. Always just I don't know, you just get into that state and it's so much fun building something. And like that combination of the creative side and the technical problem solving, it's just so much fun to
Yeah.
do. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'm here really for any higher purpose and just I like doing it, you know.
It's fine, yeah. No, that's a perfectly reasonable answer. I mean, I just love tinkering with stuff. I think I
Yeah,
relate with that too. Like when I work on my own stuff, I just it's great to see things coming together. And also it's like, it's that mix of everything. Like it's a mix of
yeah,
music, art, technical skills, interactivity. There's just a lot that goes into making a game. And I think that's what makes it special. So I just love playing around with stuff is a perfect answer, I would say. And how was it for you to thinking back, obviously, like even to your first days as a game developer, game designer, and such? How was it for you to press the release game button on your very first game? And how was it last week? Has anything changed over time?
Hmm. That's well, I'm trying to remember the first game, like the Windows Phone game. I don't know that did we get to press the release button? I feel like that was a
Mm.
lot of failing um, cert with Microsoft, and then eventually, a long time later, managing to release it. Yeah, it's funny I don't have like a super clear memory of that. I think last week it was really stressful because it's been a stressful couple of months getting over the finish line with the
Mm.
bugs and all that stuff. And I had so many worries that when we put it out, some player would find some, or not some player, loads of players would find some terrible, terrible bug. So I had thought that once it's launched, great, I'm done, I'm free. But of course, actually, then I'm just starting a different set of worries where I'm like, now I'm worried that someone's going to find a bug in the live game, or,
Yeah,
now I
yeah.
need to think about marketing. Now I'm looking at the
Hmm.
sales instead of the wish list. So it was kind of like a slower, I am feeling a lot better now, but it's not like launch the game and the stress is gone. It kind
Yeah,
of just
it
felt
never
like
is.
more of a slow transition to back to sanity.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. I feel like I don't know that it's still really sunk in yet, though, as well. I don't know. I think I need a few more weeks to be
Okay.
able to properly look back and, have the perspective on it to be like, oh, we
Yeah.
actually did that thing and it's done. Because,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. At the moment, it's still all a bit too current.
Yeah, but that makes a whole lot of sense. And well, and as a last question for you, what is your one wish for Piece Together if you had to name it? What something you wish players
um,
take away from it? Something like that.
I don't know. I feel like
Besides
it's.
money, obviously, but
I feel like it's already happening, but just that
oh, mhm.
people all take away their own interpretation of it, which we have seen. Like I think it's been really interesting to see what message. There's different messages that people take from it, and some of them are quite far from the message I personally
Mhm.
get from it about what it means to look back on these past friendships. Should you try to reconnect, with people that you haven't spoken to for a long time? But I think it's I wouldn't say, oh, I want people to reconnect with their old friends, because that's not the message for me. But
Mhm.
I think the fact that it's making people look back and reflect on something, that's what's been really special about this project.
Everybody takes different things from it. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Well, Kate, what can I say? Thank you so much for accepting to be on the show. Thank you so much for your time. I think Piece Together is just a very, very special little game there, a little gem that you made, and can't wait to actually try it. I'm sure that my girlfriend will love it too. And I've got some more people in mind that might enjoy it. Everybody,
Nice.
the fact that everybody takes something different from it is going to be a big appeal to a lot of my little friend group and whatnot. So, as some parting words from you, where can other people find you or Glowfrog Games? And if they do, what's the best way to support you?
Yeah, well, you can find Piece Together on Steam. We're yeah, that's our main presence at the moment. In the meantime, we'll be quietly working on some new things. We're on all social platforms though as well, at Glowfrog Games, pretty much everywhere. So yeah, follow us, play and review Piece Together if you can. Otherwise, yeah, just get in touch and see what we're up to next.
Yeah, perfect. And if by any chance Piece Together makes you cry so much that you want to refund it, remember that you can hide games from your Steam library, so you don't have to take money away from a very passionate indie developer. So yeah, well, thank you so much, Kate. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and wishing you all the best with Piece Together and everything that comes next.
Thank you.
Isn't it beautiful to welcome on the show every now and then a very small and so passionate indie game studio? Thank you so much, Kate, for being an amazing guest and for telling me the whole story of Piece Together, which was way more interesting than I was ever hoping it would be. It was just a lovely episode together, and I do wish you all the best with this lovely game that apparently makes people cry. So, if you enjoyed this episode, listeners, please subscribe to the show. Please check out the links in the description where, I will post all of the links to find Kate and support her in every way possible. And obviously, if you want to support me on social media as well, you can follow me on Blue Sky, you can follow me on Threads, you can follow me on YouTube, where I regularly now put out videos, long-form videos around the industry, indie games, and whatnot. I've got a very nice one coming up. It's going to be about, well, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but the latest one that you can watch is around Terraria's creator, and Terraria's development studio, and how it became so successful over time as a game with one of the best lifetime support examples in the entire industry. And I hope you guys enjoy that. You can also follow me on Discord. Well, follow me. You can also join the Discord community, and you can
support me monetarily on Patreon. Speaking of which, thank you Peleg for being an amazing Patreon every single month ever since I opened the Patreon pretty much. So I'll speak to you guys in the next one. Bye bye.